So now you're going to write the next test that you're going to do, which is going to be on the next circuit for the load side. And tell me how you would diagnose to make sure the load side isn't the problem. So go ahead and pause the video, think about it, and how are you going to test the other side, which is pin 30 to pin 87 to the load device, which is the starter. Okay, let's do the next one. So the next test is going to be, I want to know if voltage is making it through the fuse into the relay and then out of the relay to the load device. So let's check that next. So we know that this is the fuse, which is for the load device. So let's see if we go from ground to here, we have 12 volts. So let's see if we have voltage drop. So remember, if I can keep this connection on here, power to power, 12 volts minus 12 volts is 0. And then I go into this fuse. So here's the terminal into the fuse. And 12 volts minus 12 volts is the same source. Now I come out of the fuse and I check here. What? How can I have voltage minus voltage and then ground? That doesn't make sense. So that means that this fuse is open and there's a path to ground on the rest of the side of the circuit. All right, so we're back and we're going to test the load side. So now the load side starts here and it goes into the fuse. We have the voltage goes out into the relay, comes out of the relay, and it goes to the load device. Now, I need to energize the circuit when I do a voltage drop test. So I'm going to energize the relay. And I want to know, do I have voltage going out of the circuit? Yes, 12 minus 12. Going into the fuse, 12 minus 12 is 0. Yes, coming out of the fuse, 12 minus, that's not right. That's not going to work. So what we need to do now, it looks like we should have battery voltage here and battery voltage here, and we don't. That doesn't make sense. So let's find out what's going on here. What happens if I shut the switch off? The battery voltage goes away. If I put the switch on, now I have a ground here. How can I have a ground on the fuse? All right. So let's go ahead and let's test the fuse. Okay. Real simple. Shut the switch off again. Disconnect the fuse. Let's see what we got. Well, that doesn't look good inside. That fuse is open. There's pieces floating around in it. So let's change that fuse. Now these are really old style glass fuses. You won't see these used very much anymore. More than likely, what you're going to see in a boat today is something like this. You're going to have fuses, you're going to have a fuse holder, you're going to have a cover, you're going to have this kind of assembly, and you're going to have these spade style fuses. Later models use larger fuses, which are the standard sizes, and then bigger fuses, as you'll see in later classes, are maxi fuses. So I just happen to have, for some strange reason, a set of fuses here. Now, because it's the load side, what I really want is I want something that's going to be at least 20 amps, maybe 30 amps. So let's see. On the outside of this fuse, it says bus AGB. Looks like 1 amp. That's tiny. I need something that's big. So let's take one of these fuses over here. And let's see what this says. This says AGC 30. That's a 30 amp fuse. So let's put that one in. If I burn up a 30 amp fuse, the wire is about going to catch on fire. So the switch is off. I'm going to put the fuse back in. Close the fuse. And we're ready to try it again. So here we go. Let's see what happens now. There it goes. So you can hear that switch is working. So this relay is energizing and sending enough current through this circuit to energize that large solenoid. Now, I'm going to bring the starter over a little bit, and I'm going to show you the Bendix. And that Bendix is going to fly out. So this little relay is going to take all the long wire up to the dash back, short little wire, and then it's going to run the voltage down to the circuit for the actual solenoid, and the solenoid is going to create enough of a magnetic field, a really strong magnetic field, to pull a plunger, and there's a cantilever, and it's going to throw the Bendix out. It's also going to make contacts between the terminal, the battery cable, and the starter. So here we go. Pretty impressive. Oh, I think I tripped the fuse again. That's a pretty high current draw, folks, so just to show you that. Now, the next test I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch over, and we're going to hook up a key switch to this. And then we're going to work on that. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to put the starter back on over here. Let's do a quick test and figure out why our circuit stopped working. Maybe the fuse blew again. Just to review, what's that test that we need to do? So number one, we're going to check for power and ground. We're going to start just like we did again. Every time, what you want to do is you want to start at the source. So I'm going to go over to the battery, and I'm going to start the battery source. Do I have voltage at my battery? Yes, I have voltage on my battery. Now what I want to do is I want to say, do I have voltage at the closest point to my devices? So here is the closest voltage source. On the engine, you're going to get into that next semester. We're going to figure that out next semester where that is. And I have power. This probably is not a good connection. I've really got to fix that. I don't have a ground, looks like. So let me go back to the battery. Go to ground. Nope. I have no power. So my other breaker trip that looks like, let's try it again to ground. Go up to this ground. I have ground here. All right. So I have my power supply now, and I have a ground. So my circuit protection for this whole circuit just tripped. All right, so let's go ahead and trip that circuit. That's the main fuse on the engine. So I'm checking here on my up here, and I don't see any voltage here. So I'm going to do a voltage drop test. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check for my power supply. I'm going to throw my load switch, and I'm going to go back down, and I'm going to go to the battery positive on the battery and see what I get. So I'm going to the battery positive, and I've gone here to my last known good device, and I have voltage drop from my battery post to here. So that's how we can see that. So again, if I don't have voltage here, then I want to go to ground down on the battery, and I don't have a good connection here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my battery, battery positive to my positive lead, and I read battery voltage. Why is that?